All right, welcome to MBA and Beyond coffee session with us. It's very nice to have all of you here tonight. Tonight we've got very interesting guest speakers with us. I'm going to introduce them in a bit to you guys. I'm Paridhi, co-founder of MBA and Beyond, and today's agenda, since we're just 2 months away from most of your deadlines, and maybe for some of them even lesser than that, we're going to be tackling a couple of pressing questions that we're getting asked in our sessions or in our profile evaluation calls. So we thought might as well just do a session and invite all of you in here. As I'm going to walk you through the agenda, why don't you guys introduce yourself with your name and where you're from in the chat box so that we all get to know each other and we kind of figure out where you're all from. I know we've got people from all across the globe tonight. So agenda for today, the first topic that we're going to be talking about is how to plan your applications to get into the T25 MBA program. Second is going to be how to choose the right schools to maximize your chances of conversion. How should you plan your applications if Gmat is not taken or scored well yet? We have a bunch of applicants who are, of course, reappearing, and we know a lot of you are facing the same problem. So we are going to talk about Gmat waivers and more. How to interact with adcoms the right way. How to show leadership, achievements, and contribution to the community, and how to get scholarships. Tonight with us, we've got Dr. Vinita and Nizar. Dr. Vinita Singh started her journey of MBA admissions consulting in 2008. She's been in education industry for more than 3 decades with qualitative experience of 14 plus years in admissions consulting, working as an admissions head with a Gmat Training Institute for 5 years and as an independent consultant since 2011. She has helped hundreds of students get invites and admits from top business schools globally. Her academic qualification includes a doctorate in English literature, a degree in mass communication, and a certificate course in entrepreneurship from IIM Bangalore. Her quest to go beyond time and again has facilitated her voyage to contribute more towards assessing the narratives of MBA aspirants in a wide range of disciplines. Welcome, Vinita, with us tonight, and we're really excited to hear all the insights that you have to share with these applicants. All right, next we have Nizar. Nizar is an MBA graduate from London Business School. Before attending LBS, Nizar worked for 5 years in the energy sector as a sales and business development manager. Nizar recently joined McKinsey & Company. So for all those guys who are coming from possibly oil and gas, looking to become management consultants post MBA, trying to eye LBS and INSEAD, he's your guy tonight. During his time at LBS, Nizar led the basketball club as co-president and is an MBA ambassador in LBS. He has helped several students successfully navigate their applications and interviews. In addition to his professional and academic journeys, Nizar played basketball on a professional level and is passionate about the sport. He also enjoys watching football and Formula One and is passionate about cars. Welcome both of you to the session tonight, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Paridhi. It's a real privilege to be here.
Do you want to check if there is another device open with you, Vinita? Maybe that's quite possible. It happens to all of us. Just check.
Yeah.
Maybe yeah. Just
my voice here.
No, it's still echoing. Maybe there's Zoom open somewhere else on your phone or something. Just check.
Is it better now? Is it better now?
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paridhi, for the introduction. Great to meet all of you. We're going to start first with, how to plan your applications to get into a top 25 MBA program. Now, a lot of you maybe now are considering applying to an MBA program, or are in the process, or looking forward to do that very soon. So before doing that, we wanted to just explain or let you know how you should plan for that. So first of all, you should start with familiarizing yourself with deadlines and plan in advance. So when it comes to MBA applications, I think, and we think, time is very important. And it's better not to squeeze everything in, a month or two. It's best to give, yourself some time to plan your applications, to come up with a solid one. So first of all, what I mean by familiarizing yourselves with deadlines and plan in advance is mostly just know or plan which round you want to apply to, and give yourself enough time to just take your GMAT, research a bit some of the schools that you want to apply to, jot them down, and get to know just a general overview on each of these schools, just to know how you should plan, during the next months. Second, and this is very important, and this follows up from the first point, is take your GMAT or GRE early on. Don't leave yourself to the last minute. And why I say that is because a lot of applicants plan to apply, for example, in round one, and decide to take the GMAT 2 months before round one. And then they take the GMAT and they don't achieve their target score. So they want to sit again for the GMAT, and they need some more preparation, probably a month or a month and a half for some additional preparation. And that leaves very little time for the applications. And this is not ideal because everything will be rushed in the end. So what we suggest is try to achieve your target score at least 2 months before the deadlines, the application deadlines. That gives us and you enough time to prepare your applications and to come up with solid applications. The third point is know yourselves and identify schools that best fit you. And what I mean by that is, take a bit of time to research, the schools that you want to apply to. Look at employment reports, placement statistics, because the MBA is a big investment in time and in money. And when you want to apply to an MBA program, you have to do it right. So, for example, if someone wants to go to consulting and applies to an MBA program that doesn't place as well in consulting, that's not very ideal. So that's just one example out of a lot of examples that are related to this point. And fourth, and most importantly, it's when you prepare your applications and start drafting your applications, you have to be very realistic. So we get a lot of applicants who are very ambitious, which is excellent, but not everything. Your ambitions are really good, but whenever you want to apply to an MBA program, you have to be very realistic in what you write in your essays. So you can't just come from a very non-traditional background and say, I want to go work in a hedge fund and write this in your essay. You have to write something realistic that the adcoms, the admissions team will find realistic, and they would be impressed, and it would be an easy sell. You don't want them to think, oh well, this person has this certain background and they want to apply to this job. It might be a bit hard to find for him or her to get an interview. So that's in regards to my fourth point. Can we move please to the next slide? So the next thing that we want to talk about, and this follows from the first point, is choosing the right schools to maximize chances of conversion. So number one, ensure that the school's requirements align with your credentials. So a lot of applicants come to us with a certain GPA or a certain GMAT score, and they aim very high, which is great, and this doesn't eliminate the possibility that they can get an acceptance there. But there's a very small percentage that they would, because, for example, you have to look at schools and you have to look at average GMAT scores of the schools, their average GPA. If yours falls, in the lower part or well below the average, it might be very, tricky and very hard to write a solid application. And, the expectations for such an applicant to get an admittance from such university might be very low. So you have to also ensure that your credentials, your previous experience and all of that, they align with the school's credentials. Second, and we touched upon this during the previous slide, is also identify the schools with post-MBA opportunities that align with your future goals. So we talked about this in the previous slide when it comes to consulting. So for example, if you're a person or you're someone who's very interested in consulting, you meet point one, you meet the requirements mentioned in point one. So the GPA, the GMAT, you know that you want to do consulting after your MBA. For example, it makes sense to apply to INSEAD because INSEAD is an excellent school for consulting, places very well in consulting. It's a 1-year program, condensed. So it does make a lot of sense to apply to such schools. And third, and most importantly, is select schools that you know very well, either through research or networking with adcoms, students, friends, alumni. And why I say that is because whenever you write your essays and whenever you're preparing your applications, it's very important for you to demonstrate that you really know the school well. So when you select schools that you know well, that you've researched well, that you've spoken to people who have gone there or current students there, they give you a lot of these insights or a lot of these or a lot of information that shows that other people don't write in their essays and that make you stand out. So for example, there are certain courses that you might be interested in, specific courses, certain clubs that you might want to lead. All of this, when you write those in your applications, it would make a difference. It would show the admissions committee that you researched the school, that you know what you're getting into. So that's in regards to this slide. Can we move please to the next slide? Now for the third point, how to plan your applications if the GMAT is not taken or scored well. So let's start with if your GMAT is not good enough. So I was in this situation. I took the GMAT twice. My first time was not, I didn't achieve my target score. And I was fortunate enough to have taken it early, as we mentioned before. So I had some time to prepare and sit for it again. So my first advice here is, you can always try again. You might be practicing the wrong way. So if you're practicing on your own, there are a lot of, tips that, I'm glad to give some time offline or, on how to practice the GMAT, on how I practiced the GMAT, on how I improved my, the way I practiced for the exam. The second is you can always take the GRE. So a lot of schools are now accepting GRE. Now there's not a big difference between the GRE and the GMAT. It's mostly in terms of format, number of questions, but some people feel more confident taking the GRE. I haven't tried the GRE personally yet, but I've spoken to people who took a mock GMAT, mock GRE, felt that they were more comfortable with the GRE, so they sat for the GRE. So you might want to do that if you don't feel that you can improve your GMAT score. The third point is you can apply for a Gmat waiver if that's possible, and if the school enables you to do that. And the fourth and last point, just to be very exhaustive, is if you're not able to achieve your ideal or the school's target Gmat score or GRE, and you still really want to do your MBA, there are a lot of good MBA programs, probably lower ranked, that you can apply to. Now, the second point, if the GMAT is not taken, what I suggest you do is first, before starting anything, take a mock exam to see where you stand. So, the official Gmat website gives you access to a couple of free full Gmat exams that you can take. You can just dedicate, 4 or 5 hours, just place yourself in a position, as if you're in the test center taking the exam, and just take the exam, see where you stand. Next, look at where your weaknesses are and address them, but never forget to keep working on your strengths. So a lot of applicants are very strong in the quantitative section, but they're weaker in the verbal section. So when you take the mock exam, this would be obvious. So if you score very or relatively well on the quantitative section, but not very well on the verbal section, in your preparation, probably spend 1.5x to 2 times the amount of time that you spend on the verbal. Spend 2 times the amount you spend on verbal than on the quantitative, and really hone your skills on that, and that would really help. And the third thing that I always advise candidates to do is, and potential GMAT takers, is that remember that the GMAT exam is not about whether you can solve the question or not. Everyone can take, half an hour to solve a certain question. It's more importantly, it's how quickly you can solve it and how fast you can move on if you're not able to solve it. So if you're taking if you're taking the GMAT exam, you fall on to a question that you feel is from the beginning you feel it's very tricky for you to solve, just move on. Just guess and move on, and don't spend a lot of time, because the time you're spending on this certain question is you're taking a lot of time spending on this certain question, which you can invest on another question.
I'm sorry, Nazar. Guys, please, can you unmute yourself? I had you join, everybody muted, but yeah, thanks a lot. Back to you, Nazar.
Yeah, so that's it for me on this slide.
All right, so thanks for the great insights. And we've got a few questions coming specific to Gmat waivers. So probably we can take 2 of those right now, and then the rest of them we can take towards the end of the session. So there's one that an applicant sent to Taru because, of course, she was asking if you had any concerns. And the question goes, I'm applying for a Gmat waiver, and I have already communicated with a few colleges regarding the waiver application. Many are offering Gmat waiver this year too. My question regarding my profile is whether I need to do something or for upgrading it for a better chance of getting an admit. So here, like whoever's asking this question, we need to know your profile, of course, a little more. So I would suggest, why don't you go and throw in a profile evaluation request? We'll take a look into it, help you guide the best possible. Otherwise, this is going to be more of a detailed profile analysis. And you can go to respective schools' website. For example, Darden looks for CFA and some kind of certifications that you can prove you have the quantitative and the aptitude that business schools are looking for. So that'll be my answer there. Then there's a question, maybe Vanita and Nazar can help tackle this one. Wanted to know about Gmat waivers. I have a strong academic score from junior college and graduation, along with professional qualifications. Hence, I'm planning to go ahead with a 680 Gmat score in early action round or round 1. So wanted to understand scenarios in which one should I consider applying for Gmat waiver. US schools ranked 10 to 25. Okay. Yeah, Nazar, Vanita, maybe what's your take on this?
Yeah, Nazar, you want to answer or should I take it on?
I mean, I can give a quick answer, and you can probably add to it, Vinita. So it depends. First of all, it depends on as you all know where you're coming from. So, for example, a 680 Gmat score for schools ranked between 10 and 25 might be a good score. But as you all know, some Indian applicants have very, very strong scores, very high scores in the Gmat. So you always have to remember that you're not just competing with all of the applicants, you're also competing, if, for example, you're Indian, with other applicants from the same nationality. So that's the first thing that I need to know in order to give you a solid answer. But generally speaking, a 680 Gmat score for schools ranked 10 to 25 is actually a decent score. I think whether someone wants to apply for a Gmat waiver or not depends on whether they can showcase in any other way skills that the Gmat actually conveys. So, for example, there are a lot of so the Gmat conveys a lot of your quantitative skills. So, if you want to apply to a Gmat waiver, you have to show in another way that you actually have the quantitative skills needed to get an acceptance and to excel in the MBA program, because you have a lot of quantitative courses. So that's my take on this question. I don't know, Vinita, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I think you've answered it correctly, but I would say that you can, in your essay, highlight what all have you done so that you can make your statement of purpose or essay strong, by mentioning that how are you good at quantitative skills. Also, I would say that you can strategize your application. You can apply to a few schools in the first round and a few in the second round. Then you will have a clearer picture of how it is going. I mean, you cannot be applying to all the schools in round 1. So if you also keep round 2 in mind and apply to a few schools with 680 Gmat score, and Gmat score is not the only thing, there are other things also, your GPA, your essays, how is somebody endorsing on the qualities that you mentioned and how do you perform in your interviews. So all these things collectively, then you will be able to take a better decision. And certainly if you apply for waiver, it's important to draft that the content of the letter in a way where you are highlighting all that you have, and how do you tell them that this score will not matter much as far as the curriculum of the school is concerned. So I think you need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nizar and Vinita. I'd just like to add one thing, guys. I know we have this taboo in our mind that, okay, this is the GMAT score, and we're not able to think beyond that. And that happens to the most of us. And that's all right, because it's natural. We think ourselves and we limit, and the smallness of ourselves become limited to the 3-digit score that we have. But let me share some success stories as well. It's possible to be a 670 scorer from India to be able to get an interview invite in round 3. That has been possible in the past as well. There has been stories where a 690 GMAT has made it to LBS with 100% scholarship. There has been instances where a 640 GMAT, I think there was a story that Poets and Corns just shared a couple of days back, a 640 GMAT from India was able to make it to Kellogg and Wharton. So, I mean, there are instances and you see them all across the web all the time. What you need to answer is, do you have sufficient meat to your story to offset the score that you have, which Nizar just talked about? So it goes from case to case, and also the round that you're applying in. So this is a much detailed analysis that you need after you draft your narrative, gauge your narrative against the pool that you're coming from, and then decide. But with a 680, if I'm applying to school ranked between 10 to 25, I may not want to go for a GMAT waiver unless I don't have much to talk about in my profile. So then I need to work with the waiver or get a better score. So I hope that answers your question. So just in continuation, there's one more quick question. We're addressing this and then we'll move on onto the next slide. How does the test waiver thing work for high years of experience or older applicants? I mean, it really works well. Of course, you need to prove your worth to go for a waiver. We've seen an Air Force pilot, an ex-veteran, get into some of the top schools like Ross, Cornell, and Fuqua with a GMAT waiver. We've also seen somebody coming with an experience at UN, making it to Columbia with a GMAT waiver. So it is possible. Of course, you have to have a conversation. You have to write GMAT waiver letters to business school, read between the lines. How are they feeling about your profile? The best people to give that kind of feedback on your profile are the schools. So stay connected to them, keep on writing to them. I mean, you should get in the habit of joining the sessions, asking them the right questions and sending them emails over and over again before you make the choice of the schools that you want to apply to with GMAT waivers. But yes, it is completely possible, and they do accept waivers even for older applicants. All right, over back to you, Vinita and Nizar.
Yeah. So if we could move to the next slide. So yes, how to interact with ADCOM the right way. It's very, very important to understand what is the admissions committee, what is the admissions committee, what does it mean? So it means the recruiting staff, admissions staff, students, alumni, faculty, and career services people. So recruiting staff people are the people who are actually looking for the applicants. You know, they are trying to sell their school. They're trying to tell you that we are here, so approach us. And then admissions staff people are the ones who you are going to connect with. Recruiting staff people have identified you, and then you can get in touch with the admissions staff people so that you get complete information from there. And it's very important to get the right kind of information. So feel free to get connected with them because they are there to facilitate your work. Then the current students will give you inside picture of the business school that you are applying to, and feel free to get connected with them. They are all there to help you because they've also passed through that stage and now they are in that stage to help out more. So get connected with them. It's very important. And alumni, again, you know, they will give you the longer term perspective of value of an MBA, because you can see they are working in various places, what was their long term, and how did they complete their journey, and then they ultimately, picked up the job, what role did they pick up, and what was the industry, the kind of industry. And you may find, people who are matching your profile, your kind of long-term goal and short-term goal. So just get connected with them and take maximum information. The more knowledge you have, you will be able to take better and informed decision. And then faculty also, if just, it's very rightly said that choose, swallow, and digest. So it should be like that, that go to the website, try and understand it first, and then try to imbibe as much as you can and digest it. Because when you digest it, better things will come out. This is how it goes. And faculty, again, look at but you need to be very clear about yourself. What are your credentials? What is your long-term goal? What is your short-term goal? And why are you applying to the school? As Nizar rightly mentioned, a whole lot about the schools, deciding about the schools and which school to apply to. A whole lot of things there also you need to be focused on. But then once you decide that you want to go in for an MBA, then it's very important to look at the details of the website, go see the faculty who all are there, who are matching your long-term vision. Then you want to get in touch with them, you can get in touch with them, because sometimes what happens is that some faculty members are also the decision makers. They are, after your interview, they are also the decision makers. So feel free to get in touch with them, because when you are writing your statement of purpose or essays, and when you are appearing for the interview, you will be more confident because you have already spoken to some of the people there, alumni, current student, faculty members, even people from career services department. Career services department people are very important, because sometimes you want to follow the path that you are following, and sometimes you want to change your path, right? So when you are changing your path, career services department will make sure that they are taking the students who are moving in the right manner. If you have a goal which is just not matching your past credentials, or you have nothing really to prove, then it becomes difficult. So all these people are what you say admissions committee. So get in touch with them. You do not have any inhibitions in getting connected with them, because they are there to help you out. Moving to the next point is for this, attend how to interact with adcoms. So attend the MBA events, speak to them, visit schools, attend coffee chats. The current students, I have already told you, connect with alumni, faculty members and all. It's important to be professional, because any interaction that you're having with them, it's making an impression. So your impression should be a positive impression. And if you've done your research well and you know why do you want an MBA, then obviously you'll ask the right questions. It shouldn't happen that you are asking a question and that is the answer is easily available on the website. So you probably didn't even take a look at it. This gives a very, not a very good impression about you. And then follow up, because, they will keep informing you about what is happening. And if you connect with them, so you will keep getting information from them. So follow up and remain connected. And if by chance you get waitlisted, then contact the adcom at the right time, because there are busy seasons when the rounds are going on, R1 is going on, R2 is going on, but they'll keep you informed about that, when to get in touch and all. Believe me, it's very the moment you try to, it's a kind of an alliance where it's a lifetime alliance with the school. Once you get connected, you're connected. So you need to invest time and energy, effort, and I would say your complete individual self into that. So the more you invest yourself, the more knowledge you have, better results you'll have. That is what I want to say. Can we move to the next slide?
Yeah, thanks, Vineeta. Just before that, a couple of questions because they're related to the slide that you were talking about. So Neha is asking, and I think you clearly addressed that. So she's asking, do we speak to the adcoms before submitting application? So I think Vineeta has just answered your question, Neha. Absolutely. You have to attend the coffee sessions, and sometimes they allow you to ask them the right questions, but make sure that you are asking the right questions so that you don't come across like you are not well researched. And the second question was, which is quite surprising because that's not true. And maybe Vineeta and Nazar can throw some light on that. She says, I spoke with a current M7 student and she recommended not to email ADCOM for a profile evaluation. Any comments? So yeah, anything around this, Nazar, Vineeta would be very welcome.
See, obviously they will not have time for profile evaluation, but you can, in a very subtle way, get connected with them, fix a time, talk to them. And when you talk to them in a very diplomatic manner and in a very matured manner, if you ask questions, you will get answers to that. You know, just if you mention I have this score or this is my work profile, obviously when you are talking to them, you will send your resume or you will introduce yourself. So they'll get to know, and it takes hardly 2 minutes to understand where the applicant is. So they will definitely tell you, give you information, but certainly, yes, not for profile evaluation as such. They don't have time for this.
Yeah. Thanks, Vineeta, for that. And absolutely, you can be in touch with them. But of course, for relevant questions, the more well-researched you are, the better it is. I just want you guys to understand one thing, that it's a two-way street. You choosing the business school and the business school choosing you.
Absolutely.
So you're putting in a crazy amount of money into an MBA. It's not like it's a big investment. So you have to make the best pick for yourself. So don't let yourself lose. Don't make you look like you're willing to join anything that's out there. Make yourself like I am also making my best pick out there. That's how you come across as a smart candidate for a top business school. And that's what they also want. You should act like you're the hot chick that's hard to get. So, and, I mean, that's the secret sauce. So that's there. Anything, Nazar, Vineeta, you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would say more serious than a matrimonial alliance also, because, you know, this kind of an association is going to make your life.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving to the next one. Back to you, Vineeta.
Yeah, so now, you know, after I have already spoken about how to get in touch with ADCOM, when you write your statement of purpose or essays, leadership achievements are very important because that's what you have done. Although it depends on the kind of work experience you have, let's say 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, 15 years also, whatever experience you have. So you need to convey that experience to them. How do you convey that? So what is leadership, first of all? Leadership is possessing there are certain inherent capabilities or there are certain acquired skills. You know, if you're good at time management and if you're good at connecting with people instinctively, then it's fine, but then it can also be cultivated, right? So when we talk about skills, we can talk about analytical skills, you know, your mental agility, your intelligence quotient. Then I'll come to which will be generally related with brains, you know, any quality related with brains. Then I move to business skills. So when I talk about business skills, whether you inspire trust, you empower others, do you create leaders, what are your interpersonal, are you an interpersonal influencer, are you a visionary, do you take initiatives, are you, you know, are you an innovator, do you think critically, and then are you proactive, are you result oriented? There's so many qualities that you can talk in business skills. Your social awareness, so are you aware what is happening in the world, environmentally conscious or not? So many things can come in business skills. And then your personal qualities like you know, sense of integrity, truthfulness, your honesty, your how punctual are you, you know, trustworthiness, dependability, can people depend on you? So there are a whole lot of personal qualities. You know, I'm sure after this session, most of the listeners will think about it, you know, just introspect and think, what what do you think you possess? What are the qualities you possess, and which are the inherent qualities and which are the acquired qualities? So work on both the qualities and introspect and see what all have you done in your life. That's how you take out the qualities and then exhibit these virtues through action and result. How we project it is that you talk about the challenge, you talk about action, and you tell them about the result. Now, I'm going to tell you something very interesting here, Challenge. Do you think business school is interested in knowing what kind of a challenge are you facing? No. They just want to know why that challenge, because they want to assess your action. So you are the protagonist and you be there and talk about your action. Talk about your action and the result you produced, and the result, see, minimize the challenge, maximize the action, and the result should be value oriented. I repeated value oriented because this value could be image enhancement. It could be, the strategy that you gave to the organization. It could be the financial implications also you can talk about, and you can also talk about your personal gain in that. So it's important to understand how to project the leadership experiences, illustrations. It's a very, very important thing. So when we talk about leadership achievements and accomplishments, introspect your life and then produce whatever you want to produce in terms of challenge, action, and result. Minimize challenge, maximize action, and result should be value oriented. So if we broadly look at it, if we just create some stories related to success, some to failure, some to teamwork, talk about an ethical dilemma or cross-cultural experience, it'll more or less cover everything that the business schools talk about, Otherwise, you can always see success is a story of leadership. So success could be of any type, but then you need to look at your own profile to see what have you done in your life. That's the most important thing. When you realize this, it becomes very easy to write your story. Yeah, can we move to the next slide?
I'm sorry, Vanita.
See, leadership is not possessing certain extraordinary qualities. It is not jumping from the cliff or, proving that you, when nobody can do anything, you will be the individual gladiator coming out and winning the battle. So it's not leadership. Leadership is what you have done, what you have done with the qualities that you possess: sincerity, trustworthiness, dependability, whatever. So I have already mentioned this, that add perspective to result in terms of strategy, financial implication, image enhancement in the organization, your personal learning. The more you do that, because you grow. How do you grow? You don't start with successes in life. So there are sometimes failures also. And how do you learn from them? So keep adding to your growth and tell them how have you evolved over a period of time. Reflect leadership traits. How do you reflect leadership traits? It's very important. Where all can you project your leadership? That's in resume, in statement of purpose or essays, interview, and the recommender should be ready to endorse you for that. Let's say you say that you are a team player and the recommender writes that he needs to improve on his team dynamics. Finished, right? So it's very important to see that what qualities are you talking about. You see your resume, your statement of purpose, your recommendation and interview. The qualities should match. So highlight the qualities and see who you are. It's very, very important. Then community service is very important aspect, which can really highlight leadership. For example, if you have right from your childhood, your parents were into it, from your childhood, you were involved with one organization and you've been part of that for years together and you've contributed so much that it is conspicuous, it is noticeable, then definitely talk about it, because it will add to, it's a leadership example only where you're contributing something towards somebody. But let's say you do not have any such leadership example, such community service, then it's not a prerequisite. I will tell you, one of my students who was a student who was applying to Wharton. So I was telling him about community service. So he said, I'm sorry to say, but I do not have any community service. And my work doesn't give me any time to do any community service. So I said, what do you do otherwise? So he said, I just make great mocktails. So I said, don't write about community service, write about mocktails, you know. And he did mention that he would like to go for, you know, testing wines and all to this place. And the adcom asked him questions on that, which he could answer very well. So that's your story. So talk about your story. You know, community service, it adds to your profile, but it is not a prerequisite. Don't be concerned that I will join this organization or that organization, and this will add to my, you know, profile. It will not, because you've just recently joined it. You know, you cannot fabricate. So everything will be crystal clear in front of the adcom, and they kind of deal with hundreds, thousands of applications. So it should be something that while having a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, they should enjoy going through your profile. So make your story so interesting with whatever you have done. And believe me, somebody who is taking GMAT and who is applying to top business schools is capable of doing that. You are above average. Do it. Right? So can we move to the next slide?
And yeah, sorry, Vinita, just to build on your point that
sure.
I also did something similar when I applied to, for example, LBS. I wrote that I'm a big Manchester United fan, and you know, I'd like to go to Manchester to watch, you know, games at Old Trafford. And I actually got asked about this in my interview. So just to build on Vinita's point, I really think this is very important, and you have to be like authentic and really show, you know, what you're passionate about, and show yourself. Great. Yeah, that's how, you know, you need to write your story. So just sit down and think, what really have you done in your life? So I will move to the next point, which is, but, you know, whatever I've spoken, I would just like to tell one thing here is that start early. The earlier you start, the better will be your profile, and be aware and take informed decisions. And apply only when you know this is the best that you can give. You know, don't settle for something less. If you've got 680 GMAT score, and if you think you can improve it and then apply. You know, if you have time, don't apply in first round, apply in second round. You know, but apply with best, whatever you have. Although first round is the best, I will still say that. Yeah. So start your preparation early. Then how to get scholarships, you know. You don't think about it also when you think of MBA, doing MBA. You don't think about scholarships because you're occupied with so many other things that scholarship takes the last seat unless until you really have a financial problem. So search for scholarship also should start the moment you think of doing an MBA. Start when you search the website. Also look at their the kind of scholarships that they have, you know, keep maintaining a record of that, and be specific in applying for the scholarships. Do not apply to all the possible scholarships because you're gaining nothing out of it. See what scholarships appeal to you, what scholarships suit you, and then apply, because you may not be fit for that. So it's important to understand whether you're fit for a scholarship or you're not fit for a scholarship. Having said that, it's important to understand your profile. I will say again, your story, so that you can apply with the right credentials. Now, the next point is types of scholarships. So when we speak about scholarships, it is either merit-based or need-based. Merit-based scholarships are generally taken care of by the schools when you apply. So your complete record is with them, and there are some, you know, scholarships that the school is ready to give you. So they will automatically initiate the process, and you will get those scholarships. For some, they want you to write an essay and all. So it's a laborious process which you must understand. But let me tell you, it's school-specific process. So you must understand what a school is offering you. Then there is need-based scholarship, in which you have some financial issue where, you know, let's say you from a very poor background, or your education was difficult. And here I want to tell you about one of my students, you know, who was from a village
a remote village. And he was very fond of movies, and he would go with his father, who would handle the projector in a small theater where it was meant, the movies were meant to be shown to the village people. So he used to be with him, but then he was interested in physics and all. So he contacted people over there, and then he did his engineering, went to the urban areas, explored and did his engineering. And when he got in touch with me, he was working for Apple. See the transition. And then he wanted to apply for MBA. But you see, had he applied earlier, he would have said that this is my need and I want to go ahead with this. So this is my need and I will not be probably able to do what I want to do. Then it's all right. So your need should be justified, Then ultimately, he did his MBA from Wharton and is actually doing some financial things for the film industry, great thing which he's doing. So that's how life moves on. So now it's important to understand what are the deadlines, because sometimes you complete your application for MBA and then you suddenly realize, or somebody tells you, have you written the essay for scholarship? And that's the time you realize that scholarship also is there. So be careful about the deadlines. You may miss the deadlines, and once you miss the deadline, it's over. So some business schools give scholarships, some government organizations give scholarships, and there are some private organizations also that give scholarship. So do your complete research, because it is definitely school related. So understand the general scholarships and understand what the school is offering. Now the next point which I'm coming to is very, very significant, because this is usage of scholarship and freedom to use the money. Sometimes they give you an installment. Sometimes it's a lump sum money which comes to you. Sometimes it comes directly to the student, or it is paid to the student, to the school, where they take care of the loans that you have taken, or some other charges. You're going for some program, some cultural exchange program, or tuition fee, or your accommodation, or visa, or tuition fee. So a whole lot of other things also. But again, it depends on the school's specific policy for scholarship. So it's important to understand which scholarship do you fit into, and also what the school is offering for that. And then look for the private organizations, also the government organizations. So government scholars, these days, it's so easy to find out from the social media. Get connected with alumni, get connected with current students, get connected with adcom. It's so easy, I would say. I mean, everything is there for you. You just need to make an effort to get connected. And social media offers you that platform, So do that. I mean, just a question from you, and there are a whole lot of people answering. So this is what I need to convey about scholarships. I think I have almost completed whatever I want to say. If there are any questions, or if you think I can add on, I will certainly do that.
Sure. Thanks, Nazar. Thanks, Vinita. We're tackling a few of the questions as we are chatting there. Some of them will be addressed as we walk you through the process. Some of them we can take up if we have some time left towards the end. Otherwise, you're welcome to submit profile evaluation requests and get on a 30 to 45-minute call with our profile experts who are graduates or students of top business schools. So you're all welcome to do that. Before we jump onto the process, I just want to share with you one thing. If you guys are interested in working with us, we really want to get to know you better, because we want to gauge our chances of success together. We only work with limited number of applicants, since our consultants have limited capacity. They can only work with, let's say, so many applicants depending on the job roles they are in, or if they're full-time consultants, they have to cap themselves so that they can give you unlimited hours, make sure that your application is coming out right. So we have 2 questions for you if you're interested in working with us. Please send us your answers by tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday. You can spend some time introspecting and answering these questions. The first one is, what personality trait would you highlight the most in your application? Give an example. Think about how will you make your story memorable to a business school. Think about the slide that Vinita talked about. Of course, we're going to share the video recording also with you, so you can refer back to that when you're thinking. Second question is, which schools do you want to apply to and why? Again, you can refer to the slides that we shared because we want you to have a strong reason to apply to the schools that you're thinking about. Having said that, it's not necessary that you need to specifically know the schools that you're applying to. Our consultants completely help you and hold your hand even with that, because you need to match your values with the values of the business schools when you're picking them. And you need to have the right narrative to pitch them. So if you're interested, send us these answers. Taru will be reaching out to you on email, and you can always reply to us on that email. We'll come back to you within a day or two of evaluating. All right, let's now walk you through the process that MBA and Beyond follows. I'm just trying to get back to the slide. Okay, so you've got just 2 months to the deadlines, and a lot of you keep asking whether or not it is the right amount of time to write a good or a kick-ass application to these, let's say M7, T10, T20, T15. It really depends how clear you are in your thought process. What clarity have you got about your goals, about connecting dots to your current experience, and what you really want to get out of an MBA. If you're struggling with questions like, what are your post-MBA goals? How do you position yourself as a global business leader? Or how will you link it to your current experience? How do you make that transition? And how do you possibly convince an admissions committee that this is the right time to pursue an MBA for you? If you don't have answers to this clearly, it will require you some brainstorming, some discussion with your consultant, and some guidance from the mentor, because it's a very small window of time you've left. Some people spend on an average a month or per school who start like early in the year, and they spend 6 to 7 months just tackling 6 to 7 schools. Some applicants who are clear in their vision, they spend just 7 to 10 days per application. So again, depends on person to person. This is a subjective answer. On an average, what I can tell you, it's possible to tackle 3 to 4 applications from now until round 1 deadline. And if you want to apply to more schools with us, of course, you need to push your plans to round 2. So spread your applications across early decision, round 1 and round 2. How do we do this? So we, of course, want you to introspect a lot, to be honest, before you jump onto working on your essays. And there's no denying the fact that you have to have the clarity of thought before you jump onto working on your essays. And we do that with a framework that's called content gathering phase. It has 3 sets to it. Set 1 is going to revolve around very high level questions around core and fundamentals of any business school, no matter what business school you're applying to. So questions around, why do you need an MBA? Most applicants are going to do an MBA to switch geography, industry, or function. We advise you a framework that you only have to stick to 2. Most of the Indian applicants sitting out there, geography is inevitable because you're going to be switching that anyways, right? So you need to pick between industry and function and try to make a justified story or plausible story why MBA is fitting in that journey. So you need to have answers. And for that, we've broken down these questions into 12 main questions and 40 sub-questions with a lot of sample essays for you to read from successful applicants so that you get some more perspective and start answering questions around your goals, short-term, mid-term, long-term, your leadership potential, real world challenges that you really care about. What kind of impact have you brought in the lives of others? How do you see yourself positioned in a global business leader role to bring impact in the lives of others, or in a business for that matter? So we mold you to change the way you're thinking from just getting into a business school and becoming a management consultant to how are you going to pursue that journey. That's the set 1. So here we need you to do a lot of brain dumping and thinking in one direct dimension about your own story. Then we move on to set 2. This is this is a set where we need to understand you from a third person perspective in another dimension. Why is that important? So business schools have a way of gauging self biases in your application, and self biases can easily come across when you're talking about questions around your strengths, weaknesses, achievements, and failures. You will notice that when you're talking about your achievements and strengths, you have a bunch of examples to support your application. But when it comes to failures and weaknesses, you're kind of defending yourself. Of course, we're Homo sapiens, we'll do that always. So, and we do that in the interviews as well. I face that interview, like every time I'm interviewing and asking these questions, I know I shouldn't be asking this question to anybody. And that's what happens to business schools as well. They're looking for more neutral individuals to become global business leader. And you need to showcase that in your application. For that, We ask you to choose 3 really important people in your life, 1 personal connection, 1 professional connection, and the third one could be either of them. We send them a very candid questionnaire to collect some information on your personalities, your experiences with them, what do they feel about your strengths, your weaknesses, etc. And you'd be surprised that this is going to open a whole new dimension of your thought process for your application. Some of the applicants are very clever, and if they've got good relationship with their recommenders, they get their recommenders to already do this bit for them. So it is kind of already giving you a direction that your recommendation is going. How should you mold your essays and resume in a certain way to convince the adcoms? That's set 2. Then we move on to set 3. This is where I personally believe the magic happens, because we belong, most of you are sitting over here, you belong to an overrepresented pool. IIT Kharagpur, IIT Bombay, that's what I'm seeing right now. And this is like Indian male engineer pool right now. And you need to really outstand with your personality. Your professional journeys are most likely going to be very similar to each other. One person might have moved a KPI from point A to point B, other one might have scaled the sales from point A to point Z. So you need to make sure what's your differentiator, and that can only come through personality. In this set, we are going to put you through a personality test. Based on the results of the test, we are going to define the traits that become the backbone of your application, and everything else that you've done in your life is going to hang around it as a supporting piece of evidence. Again, so how this works is, this is you thinking and you doing the first step of your application work. Once all of this is done, your consultant comes in, your consultant goes through all the content that you've gathered, goes into a 60 to 90 minute brainstorming session with you, comes up with a branding document for you. This is your pitch to a business school. Think of yourself as a startup pitching to investors. This is your investment pitch or sales pitch or marketing pitch, whatever you want to call it. It has your high level storyline, your theme, your strategy, your narrative, and your direction. Now, basis this, you can take advice to pick the best schools where you have the maximum potential of converting. Bucket them across dream schools, realistic schools, and safe schools. We never advise applicants to just put all their eggs in the dream basket so that you don't end up being disheartened. It's very good to be realistic. So let's be realistic and apply to the range of schools across early decision, round 1 and round 2. Let's say if the dreamiest schools, of course, go in early action and round 1, and the more realistic and safer ones on the scale go into round 2. That's how you're going to spread your applications across. Once you've picked your schools, then of course you start working on your essays, and you realize in 3 to 4 iterations, because if you've done the content gathering well, you already have that clarity of thought. So you, in 3 to 4 iterations, your essays will become stellar. Then you're going to tackle the letter of recommendation. How do we help you there? Of course, we don't help you write it, but we help you understand what are the key pointers that your recommender should be talking about based on the story that you're pitching. Just what Vinita just talked about, that it has to go hand in hand. Always remember, your recommendation can never be a repetition of your essay or your resume. It has to be a complementary piece of evidence that makes your case stronger in front of the admissions committee. So you have to figure out what are those 2 examples that are going to support my leadership example, or my resilience example, or my, I don't know, punctuality example that I'm trying to showcase in my personality. So we help you with that. Then of course, there's going to be a session on resume. There's going to be a session on mock interviews, and you do multiple recordings with your consultant. And finally, if you make it through, then we're going to do a lot of mock interviews with you. Because we've got a huge portfolio of consultants from different business schools, we also try to put you through to alums of business schools where you're trying to apply to for this mock interview session, for, let's say, to help you get the real feel of how it's going to feel like in an actual interview with the particular school. For early decision round, guys, you are going to go in for 100% interview invite, so your interview preparation will start much earlier. So that's what the process is going to look like. I hope I've addressed most of the questions here. I'm just trying to see if I've missed. There are questions around scholarship, and Nizar has answered that. Thanks, Nizar, for answering the questions. We just have 2 more minutes. I'm going to see if there are any more questions that we can tackle. Vinita, Nizar, do you see any specific question that maybe we want to take up? I think we've tried to tackle most of them. Okay, can you speak about STEM MBA courses? So most of the MBA programs you can check on the websites, they are STEM. Taru has been dropping links. Could you share the link where we have a huge article on STEM MBA, so you can refer to that, all the schools that offer STEM MBA. And I do understand why that's important for most of us coming from India, because you need the 3 years of OPT. So some of the schools that I can say, that Stanford GSB, Harvard Business School, Kellogg, these schools, they offer STEM MBA. How do I decide a particular school is a good fit for me? Of course, aspirations, what do you want to get out of the school? You have to go through the career statistics, look into the clubs, look into what the school has to offer with respect to the curriculum. Of course, if you have an aspiration to become an entrepreneur, what kind of job you want to do, what's the network that the school has to offer, that's what I would look into. And of course, the geography. So if I'm more of a person who wants to become a product manager in the Silicon Valley, I'd probably go to the West Coast. If I want to figure out a job in the PEVC firm, I'd probably go to New York. So it really depends on what you really want to get out of an MBA. Nizar, Vinita, any thoughts on how should applicants pick schools? Because there are 2-3 questions around the same.
Nizar, would you like to answer, or should I take it up?
Yes, I mean, I agree with Farid. You have to also look at, for example, as she mentioned, if you want to go into PEVC and you go to New York, so geography is very important as well, because you're in the city, you're in the country. Everything's like one tube, or in London as well, for example. Everything I've done that a lot, like a lot of in-person coffee chats now with COVID over, hopefully. So it makes things much easier. So this is also very, extremely important. Another thing that I would also recommend you thinking about is the duration of the MBA. So, for example, I personally got accepted. I had an offer from INSEAD and I had an offer from LBS in Europe. I didn't go for INSEAD because I felt I needed 2 years to really think about what I wanted to do. I felt like 1 year passes by really, really quickly. And I wasn't really sure I wanted to do consulting, so I needed more time to think. And I thought a 2-year program would be better for me. So I also suggest that you take this factor into consideration also before choosing the school that you want.
So I would say reputation, ranking, the right program, core curriculum, electives, the start dates, cost is very important. Look at that also. Now the scholarships, what is the location, the climatic condition, right? And then the teaching methodology of where you're going to spend some time, the school atmosphere, class size, and then the clubs that are there. Maybe there are clubs that match your profile, and the placement statistics, the recruiting companies, industry, in which you can get into, the functional role that you are looking at, whether the school facilitates that or not. Then, of course, the alumni base, faculty, and things like that. So it's very important. That's what I said. Just digest the complete website, understand it, and then match it with your profile, and then take it ahead. Paridhi, there's a question like about recommendations. Can we have different recommenders for different schools?
Yeah, go ahead. So that's the last question we've tackled, Vinita, because I know you guys have already overshot, but go ahead, Vinita.
I think if I use the same recommender he's saying for all schools, they are going to get a lot of work to do. This is a very, interesting question, which I found. So I thought, let me just address it.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Once you have one recommendation, because there is one recommender, you can take recommendations from 2 recommenders, or these days schools are just asking for 1 recommendation. Sometimes they ask for 2 recommenders. So if somebody has observed you during that period and you have selected that recommender because he observed you for a period when you did maximum work, important work which you have mentioned in your essays. So you cannot change the recommender, because then the other recommender may not be able to support you on that. So it's important to stick to the same recommender, unless and until you also wanted to write 3rd recommendation, for which I mean, no school was asking for it, and then you decide to change the recommender and go ahead with that also. But the recommender would have observed you directly for some time for certain work that you did. So I wouldn't suggest you change the recommender, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's a good one, Vinita. Thanks, guys. And I know there are a bunch of questions flowing in. Kritika, I personally want to talk to you because you've been asking a lot of entrepreneurial background questions, and we personally love to get into entrepreneurial journeys of people, and our consultants also love that. So it just helps us bring a very different flavor to applications. Would love to please send your request for profile evaluation. And I personally want to look into each and every story of yours. Please send us the answers, because I personally love to read each time we do a coffee session and people are sending in answers after that. All the best, everyone. Thanks, Nizar. Thanks, Vinita, for a great, insightful session. We'll be putting this one up on YouTube, so you guys can always refer back to what we talked today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really, really nice. Yeah.